get started. And as people come in, they can join us. But Valerie has a lot to talk about, and I don't want to take up too much time introducing her. But we're so excited. Every Halloween, everyone is very into the spooky and the supernatural. But this is something that Valerie Lofaso does all the time. So she, yeah, it's not just for kids, right? Valerie is an empathic medium and paranormal investigator, and she's also an author of 5 different books that you can talk to her about, and she might be telling you stories from within these books. But she's here to talk about talking with ghosts, or maybe a more adult way of saying is connecting with the spiritual world. So please welcome Valerie and enjoy the talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, we have a big group here. This is awesome. Since we do have such a big group, I am going to ask that hold questions until the end if you can. So we can be respectful of the time here, because I do have a lot I want to get through. So yeah, like she said, I'm Valerie. I'm an empathic medium. And so an empath, in case you don't know, is a person who can feel the energies of the world. Everything on our planet has energy, and empaths connect with that energy, interpret it, and then pass on the messages if we've learned to do so. It's very overwhelming to be an empath, to feel the energy of the world all the time. Large crowds can be overwhelming. Things like the bad things in the news can be very overwhelming. So we have to learn how to manage all of that. Fortunately, doing stuff like this, talking about the stuff that I'm very passionate about, is very energizing for me. So that's why I do this. I love this. It's part of my soul mission, is to help kind of educate people on how kind of all of this stuff works. Because I think more and more people are starting to admit, they probably already believed a lot of them, but maybe weren't always brave enough to admit it. But I think more and more people are admitting that they believe in this stuff and want to know more. So, so why me? Why did I get chosen to be able to do this? Is it nature? Is it nurture? Is it both? It's definitely both. And it's both for 2 reasons. One, we are all born with intuition, and all this is a type of intuition. It's just learning how intuition works best for you and learning how to understand it. We are not all like Teresa Caputo or John Edward or those other famous TV mediums. It's not always like you see in the movies. It can be very, very subtle, and that's the frustration for a lot of people. These things are subtle sometimes. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they do jump out at you. And I will be telling some of those stories today. But we all can do this. All of you can do these things and communicate with these ghosts. And the nurture side, well, I didn't have a family that talked a lot about it. My dad was into weird stuff, and he could see and talk to ghosts, but it scared him, so he shut it down, and he didn't actually ever talk to me about it. He talked to his sister about it. His sister was the one who kind of nurtured it in me as I grew up. She would tell the stories and talk about, you know, sensing things and having prophetic dreams and that sort of thing. So I got it, a lot of my nurture through her. And then when I started paranormal investigating, then my whole community that I found doing that definitely nurtured it a lot more in me. So once you have people to talk to about this, you know, it makes it, you know, you have context. You know, that was the thing. I didn't have context for a long time. I didn't know I could do this stuff until I had context. So hopefully I'll be giving you guys some context tonight. And I want to talk about ghost versus spirit. Who wants to give me a definition of a ghost? Anybody brave enough? Anybody?
Somebody's stuck, or well, more so their spirit is stuck here.
Yeah.
They've gone off.
Absolutely. So yes, for the sake of this talk tonight, we're going to refer to a ghost as the spirit of the body that has left after dying but hasn't moved on, whereas a spirit is going to be the person that has completely moved on to wherever we go afterwards. It's okay. And there's kind of two major types of communication that a lot of these things that I talk about cover. One is unexpected communication. It happens when you least expect it, when you're doing household chores, when you're driving down the road, or just, sitting on the couch reading a book or whatever. You're not actively looking for it, and it happens anyway. But then a lot of us, I know everybody I know, and probably many of you, seek out communication, whether it's just talking to a deceased loved one, saying, hey, I wish you would, let me know you're here with me, or maybe you have an investigative team. Maybe you have abilities and play with tarot cards. That is seeking out communication. So the first communication type I'm going to talk about is touch. One of my very first experiences when I was very young was laying in bed and feeling very thin fingers with very long nails stroking my head as I laid in bed, and I was terrified. I was young enough, I knew my mother's touch. It was not my mother's touch, and it was a female hand. There was no other females in the house. It certainly was not my dad. So I just kind of laid there and said, okay, I'm just gonna, and then I fell back asleep, and nothing else happened after that. So that was a very early experience for me. Another example of touch, I was doing an investigation. It was a brand new house out in Windham, New Hampshire, if any of you know where that is. And there was a team of us. I think there were 6 of us there that night. Every single one of us got grabbed on the arm separately without talking to each other. We all got grabbed on the arm in one particular room as we stood in the room and were facing the closet and it was the master bedroom of this house. Everybody got grabbed on the arm except for one person, because he is, he's kind of irresponsible when he does these investigations. He just opens himself wide up, whereas the rest of us use a little bit of protection. So the team medium, because I was still learning at that time, the team medium bubbled him up and didn't tell him. So she put energy protection around him, so whatever it was couldn't get through and didn't touch him. One of the guys that was there that night investigating, he was new. He was the husband of one of our other investigators who wanted to learn how to do this. Former Marine, tough guy. He got touched and he said, I'll be walking the perimeter of the house for the rest of the night. You guys come get me when you're done. He wanted nothing to do with it. He was done. Phantom smells is another way. Cigar smoke, cigarette smoke. That is so common. People just smell that out of the blue. This is one thing that you have to be really careful about. If it's in a place where there has been living people smoking of any kind, and there's a lot of wood around, that smell can seep in. And then if the heat kicks on or it's a warm day, it can then permeate and you can randomly smell it. But if it's in a place where, it's not like a man cave, where people played poker and smoked cigars and you're smelling it. I was doing an investigation of a house down in Connecticut with some friends, a historic house. And one of the other team members and I, we weren't investigating yet. We were getting set up. It was an Airbnb, so we were picking, where we were going to sleep. And one of the other investigators and I were walking in the same direction. He smelled the cigar smoke first. I smelled it right after him. And there was a big wooden hutch right there. And so we're like smelling the wood of the hutch to see if we can smell the cigar smoke, and we couldn't smell it. But the smell was moving. So that was a little weird, not necessarily paranormal, but maybe because it was moving and we couldn't find a source nearby. Could be. Perfume is another very common phantom smell. A lot of people just randomly smell perfume when there isn't somebody around wearing perfume. That's a little harder to explain away, Has anybody here ever smelled perfume randomly? Yeah, a few hands. And then, of course, flowers, especially roses. A lot of people randomly smell flowers a lot. For me, my dad likes to show up. He passed away in 1997. He likes to show up in my house and let me know he's nearby by giving off the smell he kind of had that I associated with him when he was alive, which was stinky feet, stale cigar smoke, and coffee breath. So those three things combined, it's a very distinct smell, and I always know when he's nearby because I smell that. Hearing odd sounds. Footsteps, of course, random footsteps. This is another one you have to be careful about because sound can be very deceiving. A lot of people hear what sounds like footsteps, but it could be boards just creaking. I lived in a very old house in Chester, New Hampshire for a little bit. I think it was built in like 1749 or something like that. And the back staircase of the house would creak so badly when I walked up the stairs. And then like a minute later, I would hear it creaking again, like somebody else was walking up the stairs. But I knew it was just the boards kind of relaxing after I had walked on them. I can thank the Ghost Hunters TV show for helping me to not jump to the conclusion that I was being followed up the stairs by a ghost. And of course, knocking is another very common one. It's one that's used in investigations because it's so common. People ask the ghost, make a knocking sound if you hear us, I honestly, in all of my investigating, I've been investigating since about 2010. I've never heard knocking sounds that were anything paranormal. I actually did a clearing for somebody too one time that she said she was having a lot of knocking sounds and a ball rolling across the floor, and she was certain it was a demon. And I had to seriously ask her, why do you think that knocking and a ball rolling across the floor is a demon? And it wasn't. It was just a guy who was not very nice. But knocking is a very common sound that people hear. And that's one that seems to happen more when you're not looking for it, the unexpected communication, I think. That's one of the first signs that people start going, is there something in my house? Furniture moving is another kind of common sound. There's a lot of hotels that the stories will be that somebody was staying in a room and they'll call up the desk in the middle of the night being like, who is upstairs? They're moving furniture around. They're making so much noise. And they go into their computer like, sorry, there's nobody up there. Oh, but that's one of our haunted rooms. Obviously, they're not moving furniture around because I would say 100% of the time when they go and look in the room, everything's exactly where it was. So why is that such a common sound? To me, that's very strange, but it seems to be a very common sound. Not one I've heard, but I have friends who investigated a haunted restaurant in Manchester. The restaurant's not there. I believe the building's still there, but they would never tell us exactly where in Manchester this restaurant was because there was apparently mafia associations with the business, so they didn't want any of it getting out. But they have on an EVP or on a recorder in a room that they just left the recorder running. There was nobody in there. They went back, got the recorder. They heard the sound of duct tape being ripped. That's what, it was in a boiler room. I don't know if there's anything in a boiler room that could mimic that sound, but that was kind of weird. So that's another weird sound. Disembodied voices. Has anybody here ever heard a disembodied voice? Kind of, yeah. So it's going to be a voice that you hear with your ears, but there's no visible source for it. Yeah. Yeah, that's fairly common, believe it or not. It can happen a lot when you're in that almost falling asleep state. I've had that happen many times. I'll hear, Mom, and I have a daughter, but it's always happened to me when she's not home. So that's weird. I also, at my boyfriend's house, there was one night I'd gotten up to go to the bathroom and I shut the bathroom door and the wood kind of squeaks when you shut the door. And I heard a very distinct but distant female voice go, hello? And I was like, who is that? It was like, just me and him in the house. And he couldn't make that voice if he wanted to. It's like, who was that? It was almost like somebody heard me closing the door and was like, I made them scared, like if you've seen the movie The Others, where, the dead can hear the living and vice versa, but they don't know each other's there. That's kind of what it was like. It was very odd. And I also had an experience when my uncle passed away. I heard him in that kind of sleep-waking state say, "Hey, Sal." Sal's my dad. So I'm like, oh, good. Uncle Steve's with my dad. Awesome. And then you have the EVPs. I mentioned that already. That's electronic voice phenomenon. So that's going to be typically a voice or some other sound that was not heard at the time of the investigation. Another very common thing, this has been happening, I think, since the early 1900s, was the first time they were recording bird sounds. They weren't trying to capture ghosts, but they got a disembodied voice on the tape recorder. We're talking tape, not even digital. But for some reason, there's something with the frequencies that we can capture voices on recorders. I haven't had tremendous luck with this myself, except for just recently. In the house where we smelled the cigar, the upstairs was the Airbnb, the downstairs was a toy museum. One of the rooms was filled with dolls, and don't we all love the creepy dolls, especially when you're in the dark investigating? So in the doll room, there was also a portrait of the guy who was the original owner of the home, a very prominent figure in the area. And I was looking at his portrait, and then I looked down to my right, and in the corner was a very tall doll. And I went, oh, stop looking at me. And because I had a recorder, I was like, I'm talking to the doll. And when I listened back to my audio after the investigation, when I say I was talking to the doll, I hear a very faint child's voice go, okay. And I was like, it was talking to me? I don't want a doll talking to me. My friends who got the tape ripping on their audio, they work with a historic house in Hampton. It's called the James House. They do a lot of paranormal events, spring, summer, and fall. I think they're almost finished their season at this point. But the Maine investigator there, he had put his recorder down. He left the house. He was the only one there. He'll go and just hang out on a random night. And he went to Dunkin' Donuts down the street to grab a coffee. And later on, when he listened to the audio from when he was gone, and keep in mind, there's one door, it's padlocked. He wouldn't leave that house and not lock it. When he listened to his audio later on, you had the sound of the old-fashioned latch of a door open, and then you hear a bunch of children, like they're at a birthday party, like all talking at the same time. It's kind of boisterous, sounds like they're running into the room. And then you hear a man's voice start talking about something like, they are gonna control our minds and break our spirits. And it's the clearest EVP I have ever heard in my entire life. He had it analyzed by professional audiologists or whatever they're called. And they said that they cannot explain how that audio got onto the recorder. It wasn't from like radio signal or anything like that. He couldn't explain it. So it's a pretty impressive EVP. I wish I could get a copy of it because it's just amazing. My friend Andy, who started the paranormal group that I work with, has talked about if you are interested in trying to capture EVPs, one thing you can do is purchase an audio recorder like this one. It doesn't have to be fancy. This is like a $40 or $50 model. And if you're okay with doing this in your home for 15 minutes every night for a week or two, just talk into the recorder and ask questions, preferably, to somebody that you're looking to connect with, and then listen back and see if you get anything. Try to just set the intention that you're only talking to benevolent loved ones, because you're opening a door to communicating, you have to be a little careful about that. But it has worked. He did it very early on in his time of starting to investigate, and he said he captured the voice of his dad on his audio recorder. So if you're interested, give it a try. And if you get something, please email me. I have business cards up here. Corner of your eye, shadows and movement, like this. See that? How many people have experienced that? And it's so easy to write that off, right? And be like, it's just my eyes. My eyes are playing tricks or whatever. And sometimes it probably is, but it's also, there's some legitimate phenomenon with our eyesight that because we're typically focused here, if we do see things in our periphery, we shouldn't really be able to see in our periphery. So if we're seeing things, it's probably something. So that's something to pay attention to. I know I've seen things like that pretty much my entire life. So that's a very common way for loved ones especially to let you know they're there. Sometimes pets will be the shadow. You'll see it kind of low down on the floor, the shadow, you know. So, you know, typically they're just stopping by to say hi and, you know, maybe trying to get your attention, and that's how it manifests for you. And then, of course, seeing shadows in the dark. That can be kind of scary. The only time it's ever scared me, and again, this is in my boyfriend's house. It's not very active right now, thank God. But there was a time, I don't remember when it was several years ago. I was gotten up to go to the bathroom again. Coming back into the bedroom, I opened the door and stepped in and like jumped because it was like there was a wall of dark right in front of me, and I thought it was and I thought it was him. You know, I was like, oh my God, he's out of bed. And then after I kind of focused, I was like, no, it was gone. And it, you know, it was very strange, but it was darker than dark. It was so dark. Ooh. Yeah, it was, you know, kind of like that, but the background was darker, the second picture. But for whatever reason, these spirits do show up as shadows. I have seen my father as a shadow form. A lot of the shows on TV, you have to be very careful. Take what they say with a grain of salt, because a lot of them will tell you that shadow people are evil. All shadow people are evil. That is not true. I know it was my dad because it was his exact build. And it was in my mother's house after she had moved in with her second husband. And I think because my daughter and I were there staying with her for a bit, he was just kind of checking on everything. And I saw it was corner of my eye, walking down the hallway. There's another hallway here. And so I step here and I could see it out of my peripheral vision. It was clear and crisp. It was his shadow. And then I stepped back and again, it was gone. I was like, darn it. Because I don't think he wanted me to see him. You know, he doesn't want to scare me. So he, you know, he wouldn't want to startle me, but I knew it was him. Moving objects. Keys. How many people swear to God they put their keys down on the counter and now they can't find them and they know they didn't move them? Sometimes it is we forget that we've moved them, but spirits do like to play with us. You know I have had things go missing. I've searched everywhere, and then 2 days later I'll pull open that drawer again where I knew I'd left that thing and it's right there. You know, that's very common. They like to mess with us a little bit. The house where everybody got grabbed, brand new house, they had a fireman statue on a table in their entryway. And so one of our methods in our investigations was we would set up cameras similar to, you know, what's back there. And we would take photos of our cameras where they were set up. In case something happened, we could go back and put the camera exactly where we had it and try to recreate what happened. So we had a picture of the camera, and in that picture, you could see the fireman statue on the table on the right-hand side. At the end of the night, we take another picture, And later on, somebody's going through the pictures and finds, oh, the fireman's now on the left side of the table. And so we then have to go to all the team members and be like, did you move it? And everybody said no. And it's very important if you're investigating with people, you have to be able to trust them. So when things like this happen and you ask them, did you move it? When they say no, you have to trust that they didn't actually move it. But all of our team, we trusted everybody. Nobody said they moved it. So that was kind of strange. And marbles, so that's referring more to the apportations. That can also be coins. And it can be anything, but coins and marbles seem to be the most common apportation. And what I mean by that, this typically happens during seances and things like that when people are trying to get communication. Things will fall out of the air onto the table, just appear and drop. I've never had that happen. I've tried a lot and it hasn't happened. But another way that things can show up is spirits will communicate with you by leaving pennies or dimes. A lot of people will say, oh yeah, my dad leaves me dimes and it always has the same year on it. People have experienced that too. Anybody? I see a nod, yeah. So I'm going to show you a video of a moving object. This was during an investigation. That's me. It's my back over here. That's Andy, who started our team. This is another investigator. There's another girl right here, and there's our equipment guy, Mike, is right there. You can see his legs. I'm going to play this for you first, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the actual situation, and then I will play it again, because I'm sure you're going to want to see it more than once.
Raccoon!
That was a good job. You succeeded.
And I always have to point out, if you notice, Andy was, he didn't say, that man doesn't shut up. So the fact that he was speechless is a miracle in and of itself. So we were doing a training investigation. We used to have this place called the KRI Center for Consciousness Studies. Unfortunately, it closed in 2019. But so we did classes, lectures, support groups in the paranormal, ufology, spirituality, meditation groups, all kinds of things. We're always talking about weird stuff. So we would draw things into the building. So we always had activity. And this guy, Mike, over here, the one who yells raccoon, that was his raccoon on his desk. It had been falling off and like flying to the other side of the room for weeks. He never saw it move. He would come in from working to, get ready to do an event, and he would find the raccoon on the other side of the room. So Andy said, well, Mike, set up a camera on it. So he set up a camera and recorded it for a good month, and it never moved once, of course, right? So then we were doing this training investigation to train the two girls that are over here. And Andy said, don't bother setting up a camera on the raccoon. It hasn't moved, don't bother. Mike's like, I'm going to set up a camera just in case. And I think we all kind of forgot about it. Not much was happening for activity that night. And it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little bit of light on Mike's leg because in the center of us is a Ouija board and a tea light, because we figured let's try the Ouija board because nothing's happening. The Ouija board wasn't doing anything. And so it's pitch black in there. All we have is the tea light. And then Andy goes, what's that sound? He's like, I hear something, it's really faint. So we were all being extra quiet so he could try to figure out where the sound was. And then you have this big loud clunk, coming off of this desk. Scared the bejesus out of all of us. Seasoned investigators, and it still scares us. Would you like to see it one more time? So the raccoon is right there.
Raccoon!
Yeah, and I ended up in Ancha's lap, and they nicknamed that the paranormal booty scoot. So, because I like levitated and landed in her lap because it was right behind me. It was really loud.
You notice how he looks too?
Who?
The person that's right.
This guy?
Yeah. Before that happens, he goes.
Yeah, because he's listening. He's trying to figure out which direction that sound was coming from. No.
He's following something.
He was turning his head because he was trying to figure out where that little, and what the sound was, we figured it out. It was the hum of the machine that was recording the camera activity. So that's all it was. Go figure, right? So that was a fun night. And I still love watching this video. I can't get enough of it. So another type of communication, spirits can show up as lights, like sparkles, flashes, and orbs. I know several mediums who see a lot of sparkles. I've had it happen occasionally, and it was when I was like very deep in thought about something. However, I was at work, Michelle, you'll love this, at our old place, and I like needed a break. It was a very toxic environment. I would just sit in there just to get away. And I was thinking like, how the hell can I get myself out of this job? And then I see these sparkles, and I was like, what the hell was that? So that was weird. And it may not be paranormal, but it was an odd situation. I couldn't explain it. I'd never seen it before. There was nothing in there that could have made that sparkle. So I don't know, but I do know several mediums who see them a lot and associate them with elementals, which are earth-based spirits like fairies and things like that. And I'm not saying if you see a sparkle, believe it's a ghost, but keep an open mind about it. Say, okay, well, what was I doing? What was I thinking about? You know, pay attention to what was going on if you see those things. Orbs. I have a hate relationship with orbs. maybe I like them if I can see them with my own eyes, which I kind of have before. But as far as orbs in photographs being ghosts, I'm not saying they're not, but they're probably not. Because it can be so easy to recreate. Take a spray bottle, take a flash camera, spray the bottle, take a flash photo, and you'll get orbs. You know, this is obviously outside in a cemetery. Somebody took a picture, you know, probably dew, damp, you know, maybe it was raining, you know, and people like to say, well, it's moving all crazy, you know, it can't be a piece of dust. Dust can't move like that. It's like, well, you know what? The air is always moving. And most of the time you can't feel it, so you don't know what direction the air is actually moving. So it could probably move in weird ways. So sorry to break it to anybody who might like the orbs and think they get their family members in orb photos. Maybe you are. You know, it could be, but it's so easy to debunk them if you don't also see them with your naked eyes without the camera. So be very mindful of things like that. So I'm going to show you pictures of a light anomaly, similar to like a light flash. This is a cabin on a mountain in Jackson, New Hampshire. I think it was Doublehead Mountain, if I remember correctly. This is from my friend Mike. I was not there on this trip, but he always would set up a trap camera, and you know, just to see if people or animals or something else came by. And again, I'm not certain this is paranormal, but it's weird. The trap camera, you know, it has to be triggered by something. This night it was triggered by Mike, who was a smoker, and he would go out for a cigarette, trigger the trail cam. And the picture that I'm going to show you after this is one that was in a series, because it would take like a series of photos after it was triggered. And it was only in one photo. So it's strange. And with the lights on, it might not be too easy to see, but we'll see what you guys can see. So this is the daytime control photo. And this is the photo that was captured at night. So you guys can see this column of light. So it's easy to almost doubt it because when you go back, it's like right here. But this tree is actually pretty far away. And if it was reflecting the IR light from the camera, it should be like that every single photo, but it's not. And then, so if you go back, so it starts about right here. So it starts above the rock. So that's weird. And it goes up to about there, maybe there. And that's only there. So it might go up to about there. So we're not really sure what that was, but it was definitely strange. And you can do the pareidolia thing, you know, where you see faces and things. There's a lot of weird little faces in this column of light. Probably nothing, but you never know. It was strange. And they were up there doing like ET, the CE5, where you're trying to reach out to benevolent ETs. So could be something, could be nothing, probably nothing, but it's odd. So then the big one, the golden goose that everybody wants is the full-bodied apparition. Has anybody here seen a full-bodied apparition? One person, okay. So that is obviously when you see a full-bodied deceased person, and it does happen. The first time it happened to me as an investigator, I was at the Button Factory in Portsmouth. I don't know if you guys know the Button Factory. It's now Artist Studios. And we were there investigating. We were setting up our equipment, of course. They had cleared out the studio for us. Very nice of everybody to clear out, except for one guy was allowed to stay, but he was in another part of the building. And we put an audio recorder outside his door so we would know if he came and went. But we were only investigating a small portion of the building on the bottom floor. So we were setting up in the hallway, and the hallway has doors, like maybe 2 doors of 2 different studios running down the left side, and then at the end is a big wood shop studio. So we're getting things out, and I stand up and I turn around, and I see a man walk out of one of the studios and start walking down the hallway towards the wood shop. And our friend Mike, the other investigator, another investigator, I said, "Who was that?" And he's like, "Was that Andy?" Because he saw it too. And Andy goes, "I'm over here." Andy was in the other direction. And so we go running after this guy because nobody's supposed to be there. And we thought it was a real person. But we get into the wood shop. The guy had taken a left, and there's nothing in there. There's nobody in there. There's no doors. There's maybe 2 windows, but this was February. It was cold. The windows were shut and locked, and he could not have gotten out a window as fast as we chased him down that hallway. So that was an amazing experience because more than one person witnessed it. And he and I compared notes afterwards, and we both saw a man, we both saw somebody in work clothes. In working with the team medium, we found out that it was a very nasty person that had been there. We moved him on because he was not nice. So that was pretty cool. And then this is a kind of an artsy photo that I took on a visit to Pennhurst. It's Pennhurst State School, but you might know it as Pennhurst Asylum. It actually was never actually named an asylum until after it closed down, and it was purchased by somebody who wanted to use it as an attraction. However, it was a place where people who may not be the most mentally fit were housed, and they were not treated very nice. So when I was there on a public investigation, so I think there was about 100 people there. It's really hard to investigate seriously when you have 100 other people walking around. But early on in the night, after the tour, we went to our first location. We were in the basement of one of the buildings, and I was with 3 other people. 2 of them had gone kind of ahead of us. Myself and the other guy were walking out of whatever room we were in. He starts walking down the hallway in front of me, and I see a female up ahead, dressed in like old-fashioned nursing type uniform. And I see her press herself up against this door because the door was open, doorway was over here. She's pressing herself up against the wall like Willie, the guy that was with me, was going to walk into her, and she was trying to like not get bumped by him. By the time he got past her, she was gone. So I ran into the room of the door that was open to figure out where she went, thinking maybe they had actors, and there was nobody in the room. She couldn't have gone anywhere, so that was cool. But seeing apparitions, it is kind of rare, but it is something that, you know, we all want. However, we do have to wonder, are we seeing apparitions without knowing they're apparitions? Because unless they vanish in front of our eyes, we might not know, because some of them do appear solid. My friend Andy claims that in the Walmart in Somersworth, right down the road from here, I think, he was walking down like the main aisle, and there's some people ahead of him, and he saw a guy coming out of one of the side aisles, like kind of like sneaking up, like he was going to jump out at people. And Andy stops and looks at the guy and goes, "Dude, what are you doing?" And Andy said the guy vanished in front of his eyes when he talked to him. So maybe we're seeing them all the time and we just don't know it.
Especially at Walmart.
Well, if you guys go there and you see something, if you see somebody creeping around. All right, so another communication type is sensing something. I think we've probably all had those moments where we get goosebumps, hairs stand up, or like, I feel like I'm being watched. Years ago, I worked with a guy who was like, I don't believe in any of that ghost stuff, but every time I walk by my wife's closet, I feel like somebody's watching me. And I'm like, so if you don't believe in ghosts, what do you think it is? Well, I don't know, but I don't believe in ghosts. But I feel like something's watching me. I'm like, well, is it an animal? Like, is there a human hiding in her closet? Like, which alternative does not scare you? But we all have this sixth sense, so hard to say, where we can feel these things. For me, if I'm not paying attention and a spirit is trying to get my attention, the right side, entire right side of my body gets goosebumps. This has happened to me only a couple times. Once I was sitting at a dinner table with a couple friends, and they had a family member who really wanted to come through. And then another time I was in public, and the message was for the waitress at the restaurant, and that was awkward because I am not Teresa Caputo. I don't want to walk up to everybody and be like, "Hey, I got your grandmother here who wants to talk to you." Yeah, so there's multiple ways you can sense things with your intuition, and having that, the heebie-jeebies, you know, that creepy feeling is one way, but also a lot of people get it in their stomachs. They'll just be like, I feel a little uncomfortable in my stomach, like, you know, when you walk into a certain room, or you just know, like you walk into a crowded room and you're like, I don't think I want to be here. You know, that's your intuition talking to you. It could be a spirit guide or a loved one being, you shouldn't be here. Just this summer, as much as I do this stuff, I'm human. I don't always pay attention. Sometimes I'm stubborn and I don't want to pay attention. In June, I wanted to go for a hike. I had the day off. I really wanted to go for a hike. So I went for a hike, even though everything was telling me don't go for the hike. And I didn't want to hear it. So I pretended I wasn't hearing it. And I went for the hike by myself. And I was on top of a mountain, not a big mountain, but still a mountain. And I slipped and fell. And I fractured my arm. And I had to hike down the mountain because I wasn't listening to what I was sensing. So yeah, you know, when you feel it, pay attention. Dreams. Dreams are another very common way spirits come through to us. Again, it can be actual deceased loved ones coming and sitting with us or talking to us in a dream. It can be through certain symbols. It can be through animals. Has anybody had dreams of loved ones where they come to you to just hang out and you just feel very comforted by that? Like, that's them being like, I'm okay and I'm here for you. And it's very common because it's safe for us. It's less scary than Grandpa Joe appearing in your bedroom being like, hey, I'm okay. You know, not everybody, you know, we think we want that until it happens, and then we're like, I didn't want that. So dreams are a very common way for them to reach us comfortably. So pay attention to your dreams. You know, you're going to notice it because it'll be very vivid and it'll stay with you after you wake up. You know, it's that feeling like, yeah, that was definitely them coming to say hi. I remember years ago, I was very close with my dad, so losing him was hard. And there was one time when, you know, he was in my dream and we were just sitting like on the edge of a fountain and we weren't talking, we were just sitting together, and it was like, it was perfect. He was there with me. It's very cool. So dreams are a good way to hear from them. And then there's human intervention. And what I mean by that is human guardian angels. It's people in the flesh that are being used to interfere in a positive way in our lives for a brief moment. They can also be teachers, not necessarily like classroom teachers, but, you know, trying to find images. It's sometimes not easy. But it can be like, you know, maybe you have a hobby and you find the best mentor and a teacher, you know, for a random class for your hobby and, you know, that sort of thing. But they're only in your life for the class and then they disappear. I witnessed kind of a human intervention when I did this lecture at another library a week ago, a little more than a week ago, where a woman, before she came to the talk, she had asked her dad to show her a certain sign that night if he was with her. And at some point during the lecture, there was another woman in the room. She starts telling a story to all of us of how her dad was a real prankster and he loved like pulling tricks on them. And at like his funeral or something having to do with his death, they were doing something like cleaning his gravestone or something like that. A frog jumped up onto her and scared her, and she's afraid of frogs. But that was exactly something her dad would do. So she was asking me, do you think that was my dad? I'm like, well, do you think it was your dad? And she's like, yes, I think it was my dad. This other woman had asked her dad to have frog appear somehow during the night. They didn't know each other. They'd never met before. So they kind of collaborated afterwards and came up and told me the story. So that was really cool. That was kind of human intervention of another human being used to let this woman know her dad heard her and he's there for her. So it can be small moments like that. It doesn't have to be a big moment. But humans are, you know, being used to bring us messages when maybe they aren't even aware that that's what they're doing. So. Then we got electronics. Apparently ghosts like to play with electronics. Flashing lights. We used to have a man come to the center that I mentioned earlier who wanted to hear from his deceased wife. He wanted so badly to hear from her, but he was very set in how he wanted to hear from her. He had a ceiling fan in his bedroom that would go on and off randomly. He had an electrician come in and try to fix it. He's like, I need to get a new light because it's not being fixed. The electrician did a terrible job. And those of us in the spiritual section of the group were like, dude, it might be your wife. No, it's not my wife. I keep asking her to show up and show me a sign, but she's not showing me a sign. We're like,
Yeah, she is.
yeah. It's very frustrating. But he was very set in how he wanted her to show up, so he wasn't listening to us. And then, of course, you have the clocks, digital clocks. Angel numbers are very common. That is a common way for spirit guides to let you know you're on the right path. But it doesn't have to be the traditional 1111, 222, that sort of thing. Any number that is personal to you and or a deceased loved one can come through and be meaningful for you. Can be them saying, hey, I'm here, or hey, I've been trying to talk to you, you know, pay attention. I had another woman come up to me recently and was telling me that her father was, it was her brother who had a birthday. It was like 1117 or something like that. She's like, I have been seeing the numbers 1117 everywhere I go. She's like, is that him? I'm like, well, what's going on? She's like, well, we're trying to deal with his estate and his kids are driving me crazy. I'm like, okay. And so are the numbers showing up around stuff? And she's like, yes. I'm like, it's him. He's trying to let you know he's there and you are doing the right thing. So keep doing what you're doing. Don't let them get to you. But I guess he used to sign his birthday cards 11/17. He would sign emails 11/17. Like that was his signature. So of course, yeah, if you're seeing that everywhere, if you're seeing it on license plates, you're seeing it on the clock, you're seeing it in random places, it's probably somebody trying to get your attention. And then we have the tools of the paranormal investigator. I'm not a big fan of a lot of these tools because we don't really understand how they work for the paranormal and if they are actually connecting to the paranormal. But if you're curious, learn about them and go out and try because you never know. This is a K2 meter and this is an EMF meter. Both of these detect EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, which people believe may be ghosts. However, I've been on many investigations where either another medium or myself, we know where the ghost is in the room and we can have the EMF meter right there and it's not doing anything. So I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of faith in those. Spirit box can be interesting. That's the tool that runs through the radio frequencies and you can sometimes hear words or phrases that are answering questions that you're asking. You do have to be careful with it because it could be you're hearing what you want to hear. So that does happen. I've witnessed it happen, but I've also seen it say things that it probably would be random for it to hear, or it's saying full sentences over multiple scans because you can see these numbers here. You can see it as it's scanning through different stations. So kind of interesting, can be fun to play with. And then you have like cameras and that sort of thing. Cameras are important. If you're gonna go out and try to capture paranormal stuff with cameras, whether it's video cameras or still cameras, have a tripod. I'm sure our cameraman here tonight understands how much easier it is if you have it standing still, not shaky. How many videos have we seen online or on the TV shows that are so shaky? You're like, what am I looking at? I can't stop shaking it. I can't see if that's actually a UFO. And with still cameras, it's very important to have a tripod and take multiple pictures in a row. Like the trail cam, when you can show that something is in 1 or 2 photos and it's not in the other 3 photos that you took, well, that's kind of odd. So just a couple tips on the equipment, but always learn as much as you can about the equipment and how it works if you're going to be using it. I don't have the patience for that stuff, so I leave that to other people and I just pretty much use myself and my audio recorder because it's just easier. But then you have the other tools, Ouija boards. Everybody loves Ouija boards, don't you? Yes, no. Who is afraid, like terrified of using a Ouija board here? Okay, I got 1 hand, 2 hands. Everybody else kind of okay? No, you don't, yeah. I know a lot of people who are petrified of Ouija boards. I've tried using them in a seance where 1 person at the table out of 5 is terrified, and so nothing happens because that person, they're so scared their energy is blocking it from doing something. But they're no different than tarot cards.
It's good to know you can block it by
But it's no different than using tarot cards. It's no different than using a pendulum or dowsing rods or doing an EVP session where you're sitting in the dark saying, hey, who's here with me? I use this analogy that my friend Andy gave to me that, anytime you are opening yourself up to talking to something in the spirit world, it's like opening a window in the middle of Manhattan and saying, hey, who wants to come talk to me? Like, do you think the normal person is going to run up to your window, or do you think maybe the crazy person is going to run up to your window? So you have to, you have to be careful no matter what tool you're using. The Ouija board just kind of has a bad rap because it started out as a toy and you have the movies and all of that. But I've used it a lot. I've never had anything bad come through. So I don't know. I'm a little skeptical about it. Like I say, if you have the right intentions, intention is very powerful, power of the mind. If your intention is that nothing bad comes through and everybody at the table has the same intention, you should be good. But the best tool is you, because you all have intuition. Trust your intuition. Trust that gut feeling. Like, we all get those gut feelings that tell us when something's wrong, or, you know, our loved one needs us or something, you know. Like me, getting my broken arm is a good lesson. I need to pay attention to my intuition. If you want to experience more, some other things you can do. Be open to it. Ask for it. Release your expectations. If you're set on it showing up a certain way, you're probably going to be disappointed. If you are dead set on only getting a full-bodied apparition, you're probably not going to get what you're looking for. So release your expectations. Be open. You've heard a ton of other ways that spirits can come through to you. So you never know. And pay attention. If you ask for it and then walk away and don't pay attention, you could be missing things. Declutter. This might sound weird, surprising to some of you, but the more decluttered your life is, and I'm not just talking about decluttering your house, that is a great thing to do, but declutter yourself mentally and physically. Get your mental health in order, get your physical health in order, get your home environment, get your work environment, and even your car. Get them all in order, because the less distraction you have in your life, the easier it is for the messages to come through. And I could teach a whole class. I have taught whole classes on just that alone. Meditation is another great tool, especially if you're looking to connect with loved ones, especially the ones that have crossed over. They are higher vibrational entities, and meditation raises your vibration. The higher vibration you have, the better the things are going to be that come through to you. You know, if your life is a mess, you're going to attract potential spiritual messes. Learn, take classes, read books, you know, learn about this stuff more. If you're interested in connecting with spirits and you want to do it through ghost hunting, find a group to work with and learn from them. If you want to learn more about mediumship and psychic stuff, find a class. Read a book. There's lots of videos and tutorials out there. So keep learning. And then investigate. Check it out. See what's going on. So why I do what I do, that's me and my dad. Taken probably a year or two before he passed away. No, maybe 3 years before he passed away. That's my friend Paul Eno. He was a huge force in the paranormal community. He is out of Rhode Island. He used to work with Ed and Lorraine Warren way back in the day. He had a radio show out of Rhode Island called Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. He put out multiple books, very active in the community. We lost him, unfortunately, like a year ago in April, and I was devastated. I felt like we had so much more work to do. And then on the end here is my friend Dwight, and he's my friend because he was my boyfriend's friend for over 30 years, or best friends. Spent a lot of time with him, and he's just a great guy. And I know how much we want to connect with the people that we lose in life, and I've been able to stay connected with these people. My dad is a big part of my life still to this day. He's a big part of my daughter's life, even though they never met in the flesh. She was born long after he passed. If anybody was going to come through after death and say, this is what's happening over there, it would have been Paul. He's not going to do that. But he did make a point to say to me that it's okay to investigate the dead, but don't forget to live. because especially our loved ones, they want us to keep living, to enjoy life, and to have experiences. They don't want us to spend all of our time, trying to connect with people that aren't here. So, and then Dwight helped me get a new job. That was one of the things he and I connected on when he was alive. We're both kind of in work situations that we were not happy with, and I had applied for what I felt like was, the perfect job for me, and I was starting to really stress out about whether or not I was going to get the call that I got the offer, because they were taking their time, and now I know why. But he came through in meditation, and he said, "You're going to get the job." And I trusted him, so I believed him, and I was able to kind of chill out. And I finally got the call, I got the job offer, and I am so much happier. My mental health, is so good now. So, connecting with them is a lovely thing. They are here to help us. So that's it. These are my books. This is a young adult paranormal fiction series that is up there. It's the first 4 books. I have more books coming. This is a standalone in the series. It's kind of like the Choose Your Own Adventure, if you guys know what the Choose Your Own Adventure books are. You don't have to read the series to read the Choose Your Own Adventure. And it was really hard, but really fun to write. And then I do have a book, The Vital Empath. It's a workbook for empaths to help develop your intuition. I am going to be looking to revise it. And I don't have any here tonight because I am out of the book at the moment. And if you want to learn more about what I do, theweirdplace.com. I have postcards up here. You're welcome to take them. Newsletter. I have free pens and stickers. So, okay. How are we on time?
7 o'clock. Wow.
Perfect. All right. Questions, anecdotes? Yes.
Dowsing rods.
Yes.
What have you done with them? The dowsing rods. Have you used them?
Yes.
Do you feel that you're getting real information from what's coming through? Because I've watched a few other people do it, and I was just curious about what your thoughts are.
So I am one of the people that I can control dowsing rods and pendulums if I try. So I have learned that I have to ask myself the question and say, just show me what the answer is, what I know the answer is. So they are easy to manipulate. But when my daughter was little, her hamster got out of the hamster cage, and it helped me find it in the most random place in my apartment that I never would have thought to look for a hamster. So that was kind of cool. But I've also used it on investigations to try to find energy, and it may have worked and the energy might have moved, but it kind of didn't seem like it was doing a whole lot for us. So it's hit or miss like any of this stuff. It's very intangible, which is very frustrating. Yeah, I saw you had a, yeah.
Me?
Yes, you, yeah. In the flowers?
I'm living with a ghost, I believe.
Okay.
And it's not a loved one or anything else. It's, and I just want to know how to help it move on. I don't think it's been able to move on. I
Okay.
had an empath come in Sage, and it did not like that, so it
Oh.
moved it to another place, and I got that message. So I just don't know what to do at this point.
Please take one of my cards and reach out to me. That's one of the things I do is I do clearings, and I do clearings that other people can't do. Because people have very fixed ideas on how clearings should be done. And I understand it's working with the energy that's there. It's not working with fixed ideas. So I'm happy to come out and take a look, and I don't charge for that service. So please take a card.
Thank you. I'll take it.
Okay. Questions? Other questions? Did I talk so fast you are like, I don't even know what happened?
It was great. Thanks.
All right. Well, if there, yeah.
Why do you think, I think about an experience I had like 25 years ago, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I had my secretary died suddenly, and I worked in a school at the time, and I went into her office the next Monday, and it gets me emotional because it was that powerful for me. And again, I was one of those like, you gotta be kidding me. Like this doesn't make sense to me. And, you know, I was sitting there in her office and, you know, I just felt like I needed to be there, collect my thoughts and everything. So I got into school really early, and so I was there by myself, and all of a sudden, and I had my head down on her desk, and just sitting there, and just, you know, I was crying and everything, and all of a sudden I felt this warmth on my shoulders, and again, I'll never forget it. And then she started to talk to me, and, you know, like, not, like I didn't hear it, but it was like in my head. And, you know, she said, it's so beautiful here, and, you know, and I was like, my gosh, Gloria, what happened? You know, like we miss you, and, you know, what about your grandson? She was so happy. She just had a grandson, and she died of a heart attack. And, you know, she just kept telling me, it's okay. I can see you all up here. You know, it's okay, it's so beautiful, and I'm not in pain anymore. And so it was just like, and then it lasted for maybe like, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And then she just said, it's gonna be okay. And then that was the end. And again, the warmth on my shoulders, it was like she was standing behind me with her hands like this. And again, that was 25 years ago, and I remember it. And I, you know, I feel that where it was.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just like, why do you think that happens? You know, like, what is it about when we pass that allows this? Because, you know, I mean, we were close, but I had friends, I mean, I didn't tell anybody about this for a long time because I thought people thought I was crazy. And, you know, and I've had people that I've shared it with, and of course now it's been so long now I'm sharing it with a group of folks that are now my friends, right?
Safe space.
Yeah, safe space. And, you know, like, why do you think that this happens? Like, I know there's so
Well,
much we
you were
don't
in
understand.
her office, so she has some attachment to it from her life there. And she could obviously see you were distressed. She was trying to comfort you. You know, simple as that.
No, is it not? I guess I'm just like, why do spirits, I mean, why do they do that? Like, is this just part of the process? I mean, I've never had it happen since that I'm aware of. And of course, now I'm thinking there's probably a lot of things like that. I'm in my 60s, but it's just like, wow. But that was something I will never,
Yeah.
ever forget.
I mean, so my dad was stuck for about 2.5 years after he passed away. I learned this from the medium that I learned from. She told me that he stayed stuck for a while. I believe it was because I was just finishing up college. I was, you know, kind of uncertain in my life without him around. My mother moved on very quickly to a new husband. And he actually ended up, I think, crossing over around the time she got married. And I think a lot of people when they die are afraid they won't be able to reach their loved ones if they move on. But from what I can tell from all of the loved ones I have connected with for myself and for other people, is that they can do more work and better work from over there when they cross over, because they have the whole perspective. It's not just the human perspective anymore. They have the whole perspective. So when she says it's okay, she means it. She's not just trying to placate you. It's actually going to be okay. It's really hard to believe that right now, but it's true. Because you know what? Why wouldn't it be okay? So yeah, they're trying to let us know that we're good. Just, you know, live your life the best you can, and try not to take everything so seriously. That's one of the messages that comes up a lot. We are taking things way too seriously. We gotta lighten up a little bit. Anyone else?
I have a question for you.
Okay.
In a room full of people,
Yes.
as an empath,
Yes.
how are you separating yourself because you're getting a lot of people versus a lot of people? And I mean that.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And to separate and to feel the difference.
I have a very good protection technique.
Because you use bubbling.
Ground, clear, and protect.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay, I was just curious because it's
Yeah. And
a lot for you.
typically, the spirits understand. The spirits are better about it than the humans. Like when there's humans that like come to something like this and they're like, oh, maybe she'll connect with my grandfather or whatever. And it's like, that's not what I'm here for. If it's absolutely necessary, it might happen, but that's not what I'm here for. So I get in that headspace that I'm here to do this talk and to educate. I'm not necessarily here to do a gallery reading. That would exhaust me. I wish I could do stuff like that. That would wipe me out for probably a good week. Yeah, so it's the human expectations are far worse than you guys all bringing your loved ones with you. And I mean that with love. You guys are awesome. Any other questions?
I was just curious if
Yeah.
you, in your experience in meeting other people who are empaths, is there a familial, like the hand-me-down kind of thing? Like in my
Yeah.
family, there's a lot of people in my family who have these kinds of gifts.
Yeah, I believe that empath especially is something that goes from family member to family member. Like I said, everybody has intuition, but I think how it works is going to run in family lines. I believe my dad was an empath. I didn't know that before he passed away, but once I learned, I didn't learn until he died when I was 21. I learned around 32-ish that I was an empath. But once I understood what it meant, I could look back at how he was as a person and say, yeah, I'm pretty sure he was an empath. My daughter, I have a 22-year-old, she is absolutely an empath. And I know other family members now, I can recognize it in them that they are as well. So yeah, I think how it works runs in families.
And do you think people are, when they realize they have that ability, are more people comfortable with it or uncomfortable with it?
Right now, I think more people are open to it. One of the things that we talked about a lot in the spiritual circles that I've been in is the whole 2012 end of the world thing that you all, I'm sure, heard about and chuckled about because the world didn't actually end, but it actually did, just metaphorically, not literally. There are energetic cycles in our world that cover thousands of years, and the 2012 end of the world was we were at the bottom of a shift from religion into spirituality. People are thinking more for themselves. They are questioning more. They are not just accepting the authority of the church or the government. So we're in that upswing now. So people are more open and more curious and exploring more on their own at this point. And I saw this when we had the KRI Center. I could see this in the amount of people that started coming through our doors and telling their friends and just having the conversations like we're having tonight. Like, you know, maybe some of you will like go into work tomorrow and start talking about this, and maybe you've never talked about ghosts at work, but then you'll find out that, you know, half of your coworkers are like, that's so awesome, I've had an experience. It's like, you know, I was at a doctor's appointment today and the girl saw my shirt and I'm like, yeah, I'm doing a talk today. And she's like, oh, I got to tell you this story. And she starts telling me stories of her family. So it's like, you never know who actually believes, but I think it is more and more people than before are not just believing, but they're more comfortable talking about it and learning about it. So, yeah.
Are you local? Like you're from this area?
I am currently in Portsmouth.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And do you see like more activity in certain areas like that have historical perspective, or just across the board we know that this kind of thing is happening throughout the world?
I mean, it does seem to be pretty prevalent. Of course, there is a lot in Portsmouth because there's a lot of historic buildings. But I drive through small towns and I feel the energy in small towns too. I feel it in individual homes. I feel it, you know, around ponds. You know, New England especially, because you have a lot of history here. Wars were fought here. You know, settlers and the natives. You know, that has left a lot of energy in this area. So I encounter that quite a bit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anything else? All right, well, please come grab a pen and stickers and sign up for my newsletter. Yeah, there's your sticker. Thank you.